So it will concatenate them together. So let me demonstrate that first. Say I create two files, say text1 and text2, and I echo some text in them. So let's say I echo hello in text1, now and you will see that it's hello page. So what it does is that it will concatenate these two files together and show the content of them together. So let me go. You can see we have all these directories and files here. I will be going to
Kritik, we can't hear you. Kritik, we can't hear you.
Bro, you muted yourself. Please unmute.
Guys, hold on a minute. I just wanted to check if the right here. Kritik, you there? Kritik, you are on mute. You're on mute. Just unmute yourself.
am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. What happened is that like my laptop is lagging a lot. So even if I know I'm on mute, I cannot unmute myself. That's what the problem happened. Okay, let me go back to the
Okay.
terminal. Okay, so we are back again in the terminal. Let me show you the contents of words so you will understand. So see, this is the content of the particular text file words. So if we can view this text file in using two different commands, which is more and less. So as I do more words and press enter, like here you will see again, this is the actual command used for viewing text files. Cat actually, what cat does is that it basically concatenates two or more files together and then it shows the text. So now let me demonstrate less. And less is actually more useful and has more functionality because it helps us to toggle listen to progressive log. If it was a huge text file, using less, you can basically read the whole text file using the arrow keys and to move and up and down in the text file. If you had used more, what the problem would have happened was that even if you had gone down in the text file, you cannot move back up. So that's where the less function is more useful than a more function, because the more command does not let us go back up in the text file, while the less command does that. Okay. So by pressing Q, you can exit that particular viewing, and now you're back again in the terminal. So let me say, like, if you could make this particular sentence into a base 64, if you want to encode this particular sentence, how could you do it? Does anyone have any idea regarding this? Hello? Am I audible, Devjit?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So does anyone have any idea regarding how we can encode this particular sentence?
No, sir.
Okay. Let me show you. We can use a base 64. Like, there are various methods of encoding a particular sentence or a word. I will be using base 64.
So encoding, sir.
Basically, what encoding does is that it will make a readable text into something unreadable, right? And
Let's take kinetic, if you don't mind.
Okay, Devjit. Okay, you can take it.
See, do you know what the number systems which we use? We can tell that it is base 10 because you have 10 digits from 0 to 9. Then the digits repeat themselves, right? You know this? If we follow this decimal system, if you go for binary system, there are two numbers, 0 and 1. So similarly, there are multiple ways. We can consider different bases. What we are basically doing is we are taking a base and evaluating a number according to that. So in binary, what is 1 1? In our numerical system, that's that's 3. In our decimal system is 15. In a hexadecimal system, that's 15. Sorry, that's F, right? So in this case, in these ways, we can change these bases to make a very simple text look obscure. Like, somebody might be thinking you're saying 11, but in reality you might be saying 3. So these are the various ways, but it's a very rough definition. There's more, because these things can also add some bytes and stuff like that. So yeah, for a basic preliminary definition, you can consider this just as moving of bases.
True, Devjit. Exactly. That's what it is. So let me demonstrate it. So if you want to, like, encode the contents of this particular text file, which is what we use, base 64. So let's say you want to encode it in base 64. You can also use base 16, base 32, and so on. But for this demonstration, I will be using base 64. And after pressing enter, you will see we get obscure, basically an obscure sentence or a string basically. So this is the contents of the words file, which is hello, I like to listen to progressive log. This has been changed into this particular string. Now let's say, like, you want to decode this particular sentence, right? So, like, you have encoded, and by decoding it, you will get back the previous sentence. So I will copy this particular string, and I will like, use echo, paste this particular string here. Then I'll be using the pipe command, which I hope Devjit has taught you already, and you are familiar with this command. So, and we use base 64 So the dash D here actually stands for decoding. So as you press enter, you will get back the previous sentence, which is, hello, I like to listen to progressive rock. So this is how you can encode and decode sentences. We can also use online encoders and decoders as well. You can, if you go to Google and search for base64 encoding and decoding stuff, you will also find online encoders and decoders there as well. So, and apart from encoding and decoding, there are also various methods of making a particular readable thing into a non-readable format. So how can you do that? You can use encryption. You can also use hashes. So what the problem with hashes and encryptions are is that they are not there. They cannot be decrypted as easily as encoder and decoding can be done. So in particular, in the case of hashes, you cannot decode them. You can decode them basically with another tool, which is Hashcat. I will not be diving into this particular thing, because it will take a huge amount of time if I dive into Hashcat. But by using Hashcat, you can decrypt or basically decode hashes. Okay, so if you want, I can show you a particular, like I can make this sentence go into a hash format. Does anyone want to see that?
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between this base64 and the hash commands?
Base64, as you can see, like I just decoded this base64, right? By using this dash D. But in case of hashes, they cannot be decoded. They can be decoded using some tools such as Hashcat, but even those also fail a lot of time, because decoding a hash is a huge amount of work, and most of the times it may not work as well. Like for example, if you have a password in your computer system, for example, when you logged into your computer, you may have given a particular username and password, right? So how are these passwords stored in our computer? These passwords are stored in our computer in the form of hashes. So even in case if your computer was compromised by some external entity, they can go into your architecture, right? They can basically go into different files and look into what username and password you're using. So if someone was able to do that, that will be a dire situation for huge companies. So what happens is that the computer stores these particular passwords into hashes. So even in case these passwords were compromised, the external entity will not be able to decrypt them or decode them easily. Do you understand?
Sir, but yes, sir. But I have another doubt. If we say, means whatever output we get from base64,
yeah,
we are knowing that it is a base64 because we encoded. Means we encoded it. But if we use hash or another thing like UTF-8 or SHA-256, then how can we recognize that the encoded or hash text that it is that
I couldn't understand you.
I guess what he's trying to say is that we can identify base64s and binaries just by having a look at them. But how can we understand that whether this is a MD5 hash or whether this is a RSA hash or whether this is a SHA or SHA-1 hash, whether it is a SHA-256 hash? Is this the question you're asking?
Yes, exactly.
So for that we have a tool called hash identifier. There is a built-in tool called hash identifier.
Okay, which means it only recognizes the hash ones only. Does it only or the base ones also?
No, see,
the
hash and base, hashing something and encoding it are completely different. Encoding is like you take something, convert it from one language to another. That's it. I'm saying this sentence in English. If this was in any other language like Hindi or Bengali or whatever, in a way that will be encoding it, roughly speaking. But hashing is taking something, and hashing is the biggest part of hashing, and hashing is not reversible. You cannot get a hash
you ask your question first.
So, hello. So how can we identify a base 64? Base 64.
Yeah, there are
Usually
certain elements of you identifying a base 64 sentence. Like you can see this equal to sign here at the end, right? If you see one equal to like the equal to at the end, it is almost certainly a base 64 encoding. You can be almost sure of that. Like it doesn't work 100% of the times, but almost in case of 99%, it is a base 64. Okay. Do you understand?
Sir, can you do the text? You said right that example.
Yes, sir, understood.
Okay. You want to see an example of hash? Like how can we hash them, right?
Yes.
Okay. So let me do echo. Say a word or sentence. Let me say, I love cricket. Okay. And then I use pipe. And I do a particular form of hashing, which is Md5 sum. Okay. So I do Md5 sum. Oh, sorry. And you can see that this particular string here, it is the hash form of I love cricket. Okay. You can also do in place of Md5 sum, you can also use another hashing system, which is SHA1 sum. Okay. Is that clear, everyone?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Hello. How can we crack that hash?
There is a tool known as Hashcat. Okay. The problem with Hashcat is that a lot of time it may not work. So I will like demonstrate maybe. I will demonstrate.
Thank you. Actually, what happens with Hashcat is Hashcat is very intensive, like process intensive. You need a good GPU for that. But the better choice would be like which I personally use in all my CTFs is JTR. JTR is even easier to understand, and in some ways I like it more than Hashcat because of its multitude of functionality.
JTR is John the Ripper, right?
Yeah, right. Let me just have show you a small demonstration of this one.
See, can you mute everybody? There's a lot of noise. You explain to them, but
I
the chat sometimes mute them.
I can actually, but what happened is that my system is lagging a lot, right? So that's it. Can you like apart from me mute everyone else? Okay.
No, actually, there's no such option. There's just mute all.
Okay.
So that's why I asked you to do this.
Okay, wait a minute. I will do.
Ask everyone to mute themselves.
Like they are already listening. I hope like they have the like everyone just mute themselves, right? Like no, they say it's lagging a lot. Right.
What actually base 64 refers to?
Sorry, I couldn't understand.
Base,
Wait,
what actually base 64 refers to? Is it a command or what?
It is a system of encoding. It is a system. You can use that as a command, as I just showed, but it is a system of encoding. Yeah, you can also use base 32, base 16, and so on. Right.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Are you muting everyone now?
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Is we can using this base 64 in programming language?
Yeah, sure. No, wait. Yeah, you can use them for shell scripting. When Devjit, I think you had shown them.
No,
script,
I guess
right?
they haven't. with these people. Basically, the most major use of base64 is in two particular cases when it comes to cybersecurity. First one is sometimes you may not be able to transfer a certain executable which you want to examine, reverse engineer, or do funny stuff with it. You may not be able to get it through HTTP or some HTTP tunnels or whatever. What you do is you take the base64 encoding of it, you encode it in base64, copy the text back here, and just put it and then reverse it, decode it, and save it in a file. What I'll do is actually I am having a bit of complications with my laptop right now. If I'm able to sort it out by the end of this session, I will definitely make it a point to show you guys one of the functionalities. Another use of base64 is to bypass certain filters. It often happens that when we are injecting a payload or something like that, it is detected, and if the input fields, especially in case of web hacking and stuff like that, those who, if you go into something like LFI at a later stage, what you'll notice is that certain parts of your payload will get, filtered out. Under certain circumstances, what you can do is you can encode it in base64 and feed it to the system. What the system will do is it will automatically decode it, because basically these are bytes and they will be read, and the system will be automatically detected, right? So system will read them and interpret them, and your payload will be executed. So these are some of the functionalities of base64. Base64 is nothing; it's just a number system, and nothing more than that. Like we count, what we do is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. After that, we make combination for the previous numbers. Like 10 is basically 1 and 0, stuff like that. If we are talking in binary, we have these two numbers, 0, 0 and 1. After that, if we have to make a 2, we need a 1 and a 0. Similarly, base64 is also such a system where we have 64 such characters which we to represent our numbers. That's it. I hope this is clear, and if it's not clear, head on, just to go through it, look around the internet, you'll get the hang of it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Okay, right.
So one more thing is,
yeah, yes.
suppose in a website we used to log in. So, I mean, log in. Password is
your voice is like disturbing a lot. Like just ask one more time.
sir, we log in a number of websites, no sir.
Yeah.
In that website owner, the password is stored in a form of which format?
It is stored in form of hashes.
Hashes. Okay.
Right. Right. So that like I will demonstrate you how you may crack. Right.
Ritik, can I insert a single note here?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Every time passwords are stored in hashes everywhere. They might be encoded at a certain stage, depending upon the program or whatever you're writing, but they must be stored in hashes, because you need to understand that these bases are temporary, like they're reversible. If it's like translating something into a different language, but that doesn't mean your secret is safe, right? Suppose you have a secret, you tell it to me in English, and I tell it to somebody in Hindi, right? But your secret gets leaked out because it is reversible. The person can understand it, so it's not safe. Otherwise, if you talk about hashes, hashes are irreversible. You cannot just take a hash and reverse engineer it to get your original string. That never happens. If you look into the hashing formula, how hashing works, you will see that it is an irreversible method. And all these ways we crack hashes are basically brute force ways. So we need the word list. We suppose we have a hash and we have 10 words. Now we know that this hash is one of these 10 words. We hash individual words and then we match it to our hash. That's how the entire process works. But that's not reverse engineering technically. That's just hoping we get lucky. But on the other hand, base64 decoding is just a matter of translation.
So can you give me the difference between In programming language, we have a hashing functions, no sir. Is it
I didn't get you.
In our programming language, we have hashing topics. Is it similar to that or it is different totally?
We seriously can't hear you.
Now we can hear, sir.
Can you write it in the chat box or somewhere, even in the group? Any of those?
Okay, you can use the Telegram group then. You can use the Telegram group.
Hello, sir.
So he is asking that we have hashes in programming language also. So these are the same hashes or these are the different?
See, in programming we have lots of hashes. Which one are you talking about? That's also a...
Like linear hashing, quadratic hashing, like probing.
No. Those are different kind of stuff. Those are basically functions, right? These hashing is also a function, but this is different. Hashing is basically taking something big and converting it into something so that even if a part of it is changed, it matches. I'll give you a very rough example. You guys know that Google has two separate repositories of the information at two separate parts of the world, right? You guys know this? Hello? Even if you don't know, just give me a yes or no. No, we don't know about this.
No, sir.
No, sir.
So what happens is, okay. So what happens is Google doesn't store all its data at a single place. It has, there are two copies of the data placed at two different locations altogether. So that even if one place is struck by some natural calamity, the other place remains intact. So there are trillions and billions of bytes of data, and they have to be synchronized every minute. They take the entire data set and match it. That won't be possible because that's huge. What they do is they take the entire block of data and generate a hash of it. A hash is a unique signature. You can call it a unique signature. And even one particular binary somewhere, a single bit, you will get an entirely different hash. So depends on how good your hashing algorithm is, right? There will be clashes. That's why we discarded Md5. That's why we are in the process of discarding SHA-1. We are moving to SHA-256. So what the basic idea is, hashes are nothing. Hashes are a string. Just hashing is a function. Hash is a string. You put a number, a string, you put some data to the hashing function, you feed it something, and it mixes and matches and does stuff with it so that the output which you get is unique for that data. If somebody tampers even a bit of it, even a tiny bit of the data, the entire hash system will be different. The generated string will be different. That's why you have often seen that when downloading ISOs and stuff, the official ISOs have a hash associated with it, so that you can know that whether this is an authentic ISO or not. And it is getting me what I'm trying to imply. What you are saying about the hashing function and programming, that basically represents growth of program. That's something different. Like you're talking about logarithmic, linear, quadratic, polynomial, all those stuff, right? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, those represent the growth of a program. Like how fast a program is growing in CPU runtime. Not very sure about this particular aspect. But hashing, on the other hand, is something completely different. That's the basic idea. You take something, you mix and match it in such a way that no other thing can give you the same output. Are you getting my point here?
Hello, sir. I have a question, sir.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Yeah. How can we identify the hashes and this is encoding? Like if you get that encode it, okay, and decode it, right? So
Right.
how we will know that using this base 64 or how we will use that Hashcat or John the Ripper to decode it?
You usually,
Actually, I think this question is kind of irrelevant. Why I'm saying you? telling this is because hashing and encoding are two separate phenomena. If somebody gives you a string, right? If somebody gives you a string and says whether this is a base and encoded text, whether this is a hash text, practically there's no answer to it. Suppose this has a very funny analogy to the word Vinod. You know, which is trended on the Indian social media. Vinod, what is Vinod? Nobody knows. It can be a name. Now it has become all sorts of things, right? So what is it? It's a name. It's a person. It's somebody's name, right? What is a name? Is it something?
It's a concept, right?
It's a concept, right? Similarly, you're given a string. It can be a hash. It can be an encoded text, right?
Right, exactly. You can like directly tell a hash from an encoded string. Basically, it is very hard to say. Even like you can even produce a string by yourself only. Like you can produce a text, a gibberish text, and pass it off as like I have encoded this, but actually it is the text only, right? So you cannot like directly look into a string and say that this is a like is this a string or is this an encoded text or is this a hash? It is right. You cannot
That's
like
the basic
directly.
idea. That's it. You have a string. Now this string can be
Yeah, I
anything.
got it.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
okay.
Ritik, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So what I did here is that I will.
Ritik, sorry for the interruption again. Kindly mute everybody.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
is it?
so can you give a small recap? Actually, I joined little bit late, 15 minutes.
Extremely sorry, but we are already running very late because what we had decided earlier that we will address this question at the end of the session. We have already broken this law, fortunately.
We actually we are a person is actually recording the session. We think that we will be able to upload this video on YouTube as well. You can see that then, right?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. No problem.
Okay. So what here I have done here, Devjit, can you just please mute everyone? Like you can tap on the person's mute participant or anything, right?
All
Can you
is
see
good.
that? Okay, cool. So you can see here that we are using the Hashcat help manual basically. Help is a short for like a short manual page. Devjit sir has already taught you about the man command, which gives us the manual page of any command, right? So help is basically a short form of that. So I did a hashcat dash dash help and then I piped it into grep dash I md5. So what I'm doing here is that I'm searching for the md5 modules basically. So what hashcat here, the hashcat dash dash help does is that it will give us a list of modules using which we can decode this particular hash, right? And by using dash I, we are making it basically case sensitive. So even if it is in capital letters or small letters, it doesn't matter. So as I press enter, you will see that there are some hashes, the hash methods basically md5, right? Like wait a second. Yeah. Okay, so here you can see a lots of hash MD5 basically methods. There are different kinds of MD5 hash methods, and it displays all of them. And you can see this particular number beside them, right? So this particular number will help us decode this particular hash. Do 0 for this kind of MD5 hash, you will use 10 and so on. So I will just quickly show you the hashcat method, like the format basically. So the as and in the first example I did show you 0, right? So I will do that particular hash format. Then I will do the extremely sorry, my headphone just fell off. Okay. Now I will show you the text file containing this particular hash. Okay. So I guess it was in words. Okay. Basically, I will just give you the format instead of running this file. So here is the source of hash, and then we have a we can brute force a particular list of words against this hash. So what happens is that Hashcat will compare every particular words with this hash, and if a particular word matches with this hash, it will say like this hash is this word. Okay. Okay, so moving on, I'll be now moving on to permissions, which is like the most important format of this particular session, like the most important subject. Okay, let me delete everything first. Like, let me clear up my terminal. It's lagging a lot, so much. I can't even like delete this properly. Right. Okay. So now I do ls-la, and here you will see these are the permissions given to this particular files and directories. So I think Devjit has already taught you how can we can differentiate between a file and a directory. So in his terminal, we can differentiate between a file and folder by looking at their color. But in my case, there is no color to differentiate it with, right? So you can use ls-la to differentiate them. As you know, the D here stands for directories and the dash here stands for files. These may be text files or image files. That doesn't matter. It is a file. Okay, so let me say, yeah.
So what does this 10, 38, 2, 1, these numbers mean just in front of a file?
Okay, these are right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so these are, as far as I think, like these are the permissions given to the user, like the administrator, right? And I will like explain to you, like these, like you can see here nine places, right? Like after D, so there is RWX, there is R-X, and there is R-X, right? So there are 9 placeholders here. So the first 3 goes to the user. Okay, the next 3. Was there any question? Anyone? I think I just heard a sound. Okay. Just moving on. Like these first 3 permissions go to the user. The next 3 permissions go to the group. Then and go to the world. The world here basically means anyone and everyone. So I will urge you to write down this. The RWX stands for read, write, and execute. Okay, so the read command, the read permission will help us to read a particular file or directory. Like we can open and see the contents of that particular directory or file. The write command will help us to edit that particular directory or file, and the X permission will help us execute that particular file or directory. Like I remember in the last session, Devjit had done something like chmod plus X, and then he gave the script name, right? Devjit, am I right? Devjit, are you there?
Yeah. What basically I did was I made a custom script.
Yeah. I know. So what Devjit did was that he made the particular file executable. So what do we mean by executable? Like if we made a particular Python code, C code, or anything like shell script, we need to execute it, right, to work, so that it can work. So the X here stands for that particular execute permission. So by X, the particular user group or world can execute that particular file or directory. So there are certain numbers assigned to this particular permission. For read, it is 4. For write, it is 2. And for X, it is 1. So if we add them all, like 4 plus 2 plus 1, we get a total of 7, right? So this 7 is like for this particular directory, which is a dot, let's say. So for dot, the user has a permission of 7. The group has a permission of let's say 4 plus 1. 4 plus 1, since the write permission is missing here, so we deduct 2 from 7 and we get 5. Okay, so the permission is 7 for user, 5 for group, and similarly 5 for the word. So what is the distinction between user, group, and word? Let me explain that first. So in your system there may be various users. Okay, like if your system was used by many other people, like in Windows we had certain users, like in our schools, like we had a guest account, right? So it's similar to that, like we can have multiple users in our machine as well. So in that cases we can make a group of those users and call it a group. Okay, and for world it doesn't matter it belongs to a group or not. It is it is inclusive of everyone, like everyone can do anything with that particular file. So similarly, if you want to change the permissions of a particular folder or a file, we use the command chmod. Okay, and let me say, let us change the permissions of the F1 file right here. I hope you can all see this. I will increase the font size a bit much. So like, I hope you can see the F1 file right here. So I will make this F1 file. I will give it all the permissions. Okay. So I will do chmod 777 and then the file name, which is F1. And I press enter, and if I do ls-la now, like now you can see the permissions for F1 shows RWS, RWS, RWS. So it means the user, the group, and the world has all the permissions. Like it can read, edit, and as well as execute this particular file F1. Okay, so does anyone have any questions regarding this permissions? Does anyone have any questions?
1, 2, 1, 1. So what does this actually mean? Or what does this represent?
Okay, okay, yeah, right. These particular things are like this particular number, it is exclusive to the user, right? And this user has this amount of characters. I just believe like this dot folder, like this is a folder, right? This is a D. So this has like files, 10 files inside it. Like this has 38 files inside it. A has 2 files inside it. This is a file, so it is 1, right? And you can see for all the files here, it shows 1. Okay, and as you can see, the next two things, which is root and root, this what is it like it will show us like what particular group or world it belongs to. Like if you want to change the ownership of this particular directory or file, like you will have to change this, right? So you can use the do that by using a command known as chgrp chown. For own, it will change the user ownership, and for chgrp it will change the group ownership basically. So this rwot root is the user, like this particular file f2 is basically under the ownership of root, and also it is owned by the group of root. So what does that mean is that it doesn't belong to any particular group as such. It belongs to the root only. Okay, so is it understandable, everyone? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay. Yeah, okay, okay. Moving on, I'll be showing you how we can install packages inside it. Okay. So let me clear up the terminal first. Okay, so we can install packages by using this particular command, sudo apt get install. So what this command does is that it will help us install any packages. For example, let me install htop. I already have htop in my machine installed. So if anyone who doesn't have htop, he will have to do this particular command, which is sudo apt-get install. So, and I think you are already familiar with the sudo command. What sudo does is that it will help us to run any command as root. So let's say if you are any other user in your system and you are not root. So as I just told, you cannot be accessed by administrators of certain systems. So apart from that, sudo can run almost everything. So as I press enter, you will see that it starts to install this particular htop package, and you will see like this is continuously. So yeah, it shows that it has upgraded certain stuff, it has removed certain stuff, like it has done it all just to install this particular package of htop. And I think htop has already been done in the previous class. What is htop? Htop will show us what are the running processes in our system. So yeah, these are the running processes in our system, and you can see the CPU usage here, like, and these are the running processes. If you want to kill any particular process, you would need to have this number, which is under PID, right? And you can stop the particular process by using the kill command. So and yeah, we are back again in our terminal. So the next command I will show you. Yeah. Go ahead.
So difference between htop and just top.
What top does, top is also a similar command which shows us the processes, right? But what htop is more of an updated version of htop is more of a graphical based system, like a graphical based interface mostly, and even like it helps us to toggle, like go up and down to see what processes are ongoing. Like in top, you cannot go you cannot go below a certain point. Like you cannot see what were the like processes running previously. But in htop, there is no such limit. You can scroll up and down as much as you want. Okay.
Excuse me.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Is there any significant difference between app? Is there any significant difference between app and apt-get, and when to use one, and when to use which? Now these two things.
Which you are talking about? Which is the command used to locate?
No.
Okay.
I'm asking is what is the difference?
Sorry,
Hello. So what is the difference?
I've been checking files from FTP server.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Yeah. Just repeat the question.
What's the difference between apt-get and apt?
Like there are like you cannot get certain packages by apt-get, right? Like you have to use apt in certain cases as well. Like they like the apt will also help us. Yeah, Devjit, you're audible. Yeah, you're audible.
It exists.
You may.
Basically, apt-get is a little subset of apt. That's it. There are various subsets of apt like apt cache, apt-get, and there are a lot of these. So, however,
it falls under the same umbrella. Yeah, exactly. Like it all falls under the same umbrella. Like apt is more inclusive basically. Like in apt-get, it falls under apt. IP ticket. Okay. Is the question answered? Okay.
Yeah.
Let me move. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let me move on and show you if config. Those who are familiar with the Windows command prompt, it will be ipconfig if they're not familiar. And for if config, what does if config do? The if config will show us the IP or private IP of a particular system. Right. Like here you can see inet 6, right? So this is the IPv6 address of my particular machine, and inet is the IP, private IP of my particular machine. This is the net mask, so which reveals that I'm using a /24 network, and this is the broadcast IP. So are you guys familiar with what an IP is? If anyone is not familiar, please just tell it right now. So I will explain in depth what is an IP.
No, sir.
Does anyone have any issues? Okay, cool. So I hope like you all already know what is ether, right? Ether, and this is the loopback address basically. Like you don't need to go like you don't need this at this particular moment, but you need to know what is this like under WLAN. Like if you are using a Wi-Fi, these are required, and if you are using like a particular Ethernet cable, you will find these under the ETH0 option. Okay. So this is the private IP and so on. Okay, so moving on, I will demonstrate the ping command. So what the ping command does is that it is basically a knock command. It helps us to see if our like internet connection is perfectly okay or not. Like it will help us to wait, what happened? Again. Let me just brief you what the ping command does. The ping command, what happens is that it will, I don't know why it isn't working right now, but what the ping command does, I will just brief you. The ping command will send some packets to the server of Google, okay, and it will it will just knock on the door of Google server, like it will show us, are you available, Google? And Google will also send us back some of the packets of their own and show us that yes, I'm available. So using this particular ping command, we'll be basically able to see if your internet connection is working okay. Yeah.
Just show them a pinging your local router.
I couldn't understand the question.
Let's say unping that, just ping your local router to show.
Hello.
Hello, Ritik.
Hello, just anyone? I think anyone just asked me a question.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can hear you.
Try pinging your local router. Just for the sake of demonstration.
Sorry, ping a local server. Do you mean by that?
Ping your IP just to get the just for the sake of demonstration.
Okay, right. My IP, right? Right. Oh my god, it's lagging a lot. Wait a second, I'll just make this correct. Yeah, you can now see that we have sent up 64 bytes of data to this particular, which is my system, and it is responding back. So it means that like it is sending ICMP request, if you can see here, right here. So, and it will also show us the time period required for it to respond back to us. So it will basically send 64 bytes of data, and it will again respond back with the same data, right? To stop this particular process, you need to do Control C, and that will stop it. Like you can see 37 packets transmitted and 37 received. So it means that our internet connection is perfectly fine. Or you can, even if you are not like going through the internet, like if you are, just as I have demonstrated here, like you are not pinging the internet, you are pinging your own private IP. So it doesn't have to go through the internet to ping this particular IP, right? So okay, I now understand what happened previously. Like this particular thing happened because probably my internet connection was not working properly, and since I pinged my own private IP, it has shown like it is working perfectly okay, right? So if I had to like ping any other network, like Google is another network, right? So it has to hop several routers and go to the server of Google. And in order to do that, it has to change network. So that's what happened, I guess. Like it didn't, but like didn't receive back any particular packet. So, but in case of this private IP, like we transmitted 37 packets and it received back all of them. So that means like in our particular network, our connectivity is working just fine. Okay, so moving on. I will be now demonstrating trace route. So what is trace route? Trace route will help us to see what kind, how many hops basically it takes to reach a particular server or any particular router, you may say. Like if I do trace route google.com, I hope it works. Let's see. Yeah, okay. Now you can see the routers in between this particular, in between, and you can see the IP addresses of routers in between, right? And even now it is hopping. You can see like the first router has shown some problems. Like apart from that, like in the second hop, it is showing the IP of the second router, and then from that router it went to this particular router, which is at number 3, and ultimately after all these hops, our request finally reached at number 10, and at this particular IP. So this is the IP of the Google server we reached just now, and in between these are the IP addresses of the routers we just hopped to reach the particular server of Google. Okay, so any question until now?
Sir, if every time we will run, the IP address will be changed, no, sir? Of Google server?
Not necessarily. It depends. Not necessarily. It depends on which server like our request reaches to. Like Google has many servers, right? It is a multi-billion dollar business, and it has a huge like network, and thus it has also a huge number of servers, right? What happens is that our particular request will reach the server which has the least traffic at the moment. So it will at first our request will check like what servers are occupied at the Google storehouse, right? And it will avoid those particular servers. Like if the traffic is too much, and it finally reached this particular server because the traffic reaching this particular server is a lot less compared to the others. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Any more questions?
Sir, can you say a brief about what an IP is?
Okay, what is an IP? So every device has a particular identity over the internet, right? Like it is a fingerprint of the particular device. The internet has to know like where do I have to send this particular page. Like what happens when you go to a website, say. what happens? Like at first, your computer will send a signal to the server, to the web server basically, and it will request the web page of that particular site. Like say if you are if you are visiting Facebook, for example, like you will request the Facebook web server and ask it like, can you please give me the login page of Facebook? And Facebook will review your request. It will see like if you are a safe safe machine, and it will send back its page, right? And how can Facebook know like am I sending this particular web page to a particular like which machine am I sending this web page to? So this the web page, the Facebook web server will know our identity by our private IP. No, sorry, our public IP. Like the private IP is what public IP is our identity after our request has can it please note everyone?
On it.
So, thank you. So what happens is that like after, okay, let me just be more clear about it. Like we know that we have internet service providers, right? So what happens is that they have servers like called DNS, okay, and these DNSs store the IPs of the domains we search for. Like if I just search for Google, like the DNS will store the IP of the Google web server, okay, and similarly. Like our machine also has a particular identity over the internet. This identity is called the IP address. Like the internet service provider provide our router with an IP, which is the public IP. Okay, and the router in turn provides us with another IP. The router can provide us with an IP using a service known as DHCP protocol. Okay. So what the systems which have the DHCP protocol can basically can provide IP addresses to another devices. Okay, so like there is a WAP, which is a wireless access like WAP, and which is similar to router, right? It relays, but it WAP does not have the DHCP protocol, so it cannot provide IP addresses to other devices. Okay, and so similarly, when we search for a particular web page like Facebook, I just said, like if the request first reaches our router via and our router, we communicate with our router via the private IP. Okay, and the router then relays that our request to the via multiple hosts to the Facebook web server. Okay, so that is done with the help of a public IP, and the public so. What Facebook web server says that this IP is requesting a login web page, okay, and then it will send that web page to our public IP. The public IP then takes the page and from to the it will come back to our router, and the route give us the page. Have to make it's somewhat, if you have any more doubts, if I have to elaborate on it more, you just, do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, there is only one command left for today, which is WC command. Sorry?
So if we made if we access Facebook through a phone, then how the packages are sent?
Yeah, if you are doing it via phone, even your phone has a private IP. Okay, like it doesn't every device which connects to the internet has a private IP. So what happens is that just as I explained, if you are using your computer, like it even still then it goes through our router, right? And even if you are using our phone, the private IP of our phone first reaches the router, and then the public IP reaches the Facebook web server. Okay, and what happens is that the public IP it means constant for a particular router. Okay, sorry, it's listed. It may, okay, and they provide us an IP to our router, and the router then provides with a dynamic. Okay, so by dynamic IP, I mean that it will take back that particular IP and it may give that IP to someone else if that particular device tries to access the internet. Like if you have used your computer, like if you're using your laptop to connect to the internet, like it has an IP, let's say 1234. I'm just for the sake of demonstration saying 1234. Like let's say the router has provided you with your computer with the private IP of 1234. And after you are done using the internet and you close your computer, that particular private IP goes back to the database of the router. And after that, if you want to use the internet by a phone, it will go through your the router's database, and it will see that 1234 IP address is now free since no one is using it right now. Okay, so what happens? It can give that particular private IP to our phone as well. And similarly, we can also make reservations for a particular IPs using for our systems of phone. Like this device will use this particular IP forever. It cannot change. Like you have to reserve this particular private IP for this system. Like you can do that using on your going through your router's interface. Like you can do that if you change the settings of your router. Otherwise, which you will get a dynamic IP. Like it can change after one if you close your internet connection and you open it 1 second, so it changes. But however, the public IP it depends upon the ISP, like what kind of internet IP it is providing. Like it can provide us with a static IP as well as a dynamic IP. It depends upon the internet service provider. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the final command today is the WC command. Okay, let me clear my terminal here. Okay, so let me see where I am. Right, so I just demonstrated words a few minutes, right? So let me do WC words. And you can see, sorry, does anyone have any questions? Like I am getting a lot of noises in the background. Okay. Deji, can you just mute this question?
Sure, sir.
Yeah, okay. So what the WC command does is that it will give us the number of lines, the number of words, and the number of characters in the particular text file. So you can see the number of lines in that particular text file is 1, the number of words in the particular text file is 8, and the number of characters is 44. So let me do cat words, and you will see like this is my text file, right? And you can see clearly that there's one line. If you count the number of words, it is 8, and if you just counted the number of characters, it will be revealed as 44. So that's it for today. I will now move on to a questions session. Like if you have any questions, just ask away right now.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sir, can you demonstrate netcat?
Netcat is a bit advanced command. Like it is used for reverse shell. Like, do you know that about netcat?
I watched it in the YouTube video.
Okay, so using you want to use netcat, you have to have a little bit of knowledge about what is a shell, like a reverse shell and bind shell. Do you know what is a reverse shell and bind shell?
No, sir.
Okay, so let me tell you what is a reverse shell and a bind shell. In a reverse shell, what happens that with in our particular target, like we are attacking a particular victim. Let's say, okay, we are the attacker. So in a case of reverse shell, what happens is the victim will connect to the attacker. Okay, and by doing that, he will be compromising his own system. You may now ask, like, why would a victim connect to my system? Like, why would he do that? Like, he actually may not do that. We will exploit certain services to do that. Like, for example, let's say a target server is showing a web page. Let's say, okay. So we will set up the web page and if we can edit this web page in such a way that this web page will connect back to us. Like as soon as we request the web page, like if I want to open the web page, and the target will then connect back to us. And by doing that, you will be connecting to our terminal and will be gaining access over his terminal. Okay. So by gaining access, I do not mean like he will be gaining the root access at first. We may be another user, but by privilege escalation, which means like we have to escalate to a root level privilege, we can then run any command and do anything with the system. Like you are root on the terminal on the system of. So by using the terminal, you can see anything and everything. So that is the concept of the reverse shell. Another shell is the bind shell. So what is the bind shell? A bind shell will in the bind shell the attacker connects to the victim, and we set up a listening port at the victim's computer, and we will send a certain signal to this listening port, right? And if we connect here to it, we can again gain the terminal shell over that particular target computer. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, okay, let me.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Hello. Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
Like, sir, if I connect my laptop with a Wi-Fi, like my phone Wi-Fi or any other Wi-Fi, okay.
Yeah.
So if I search for Facebook or something, so which IP address will go to the Facebook or server or something, some address?
The IP address that will go to the Facebook web server is a public IP. Like the utility of the private IP ends after it crosses the router. So what is a router? The router helps us to connect different networks. Like inside under the router, there are multiple devices connected. Let's say you are connecting your phone to the router. Let's say you are connecting your laptop to the router, right? And your phone and your laptop is under the network of the router, of your router. Okay, and after the request goes beyond the router, it has officially reached another network, right? And inside your network, your IP is private, and outside your network, your IP is public. Okay. So now do you understand? Like after your request goes beyond the router, it becomes public.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Any more questions?
Sir.
Yeah.
Sir, can I talk in
Yeah, sure. You can talk in English.
सर अगर आपका फोन हैक हो गया,
हाँ,
समझ लो, तो आपको समझ नहीं आया, 2 दिन बाद में कुछ हो रहा मेरे फोन को, ऐसे आपको फीलिंग आया, तो हम कैसे प्रिवेंट कर सकते हैं वो सब कुछ?
Like after your sure.
These are very, I don't think these are the kind of questions which are very suitable right now in terms of the session, because right now most of us are educating part. There's no hard and fast rule. Like when you get into hardcore security, this is when you go for exploitation stuff. There's no just books, and you can replicate something. So you just start with something and say कि so happy to so yeah that's really good.
मैं ऐसे नहीं बोल रहा ना सर, मगर अपने लोगों को समझ आता, मगर दूसरे लोग अभी जब फोन यूज करना हो जाता है ना तो कुछ प्रॉब्लम वैसे बोल रहा हूँ.
There's no pardon. There's no pardon fast food. Normal बुखार हुआ है किसको, so कैसे पता चलेगा कि उसको क्या बीमारी है? Like वैसे तो नहीं होता ना कि अच्छा ये there's a systematic approach, true. But ये just बुखार है मतलब कुछ कौन सा है बस देख के तो नहीं बोल सकते, और एग्जामिन करना पड़ेगा सिस्टम को. You have to look at what are the files, what are the pathways which are been followed. This is a field of cyber forensics, which is altogether a separate field of its own. You getting me?
Yes sir, yes sir.
Hello.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
So the file transfer takes place using the IP address, right?
What kind of file transfer are you talking about?
Like for example, if I send a request and then the request will be
I don't understand like what kind of file transfer are we talking. Like if you are talking about like FTP services and something like that, there are in case of like transferring files, let's say like if you are transferring files over share it or Bluetooth, I don't think like IP addresses are involved. Are we?
Okay.
Hello.
For example, between a router and our phone.
One particular aspect which I see, whenever there is a file transfer, there has to be IPs involved. When you're sending something to somebody, you need an address, right? You can't send anything without an address.
Right.
Hello?
Yeah.
Does that mean you send through the address? No. The address is used to specify stuff, right?
Okay.
The address is used to specify stuff, and some transporting medium does that for you. So it's very similar with IPs. IPs are just an address which uniquely identify key here. This is the location which I have to send. That's it. That's the entirety of it.
My question is how MAC address can affect it, like.
Okay, so MAC address and IP addresses belong to two separate layers. I know it's a kind of tough understanding these right now, but what I'll say is, bear on with this. We have a dedicated session on networking, so that shouldn't be an issue. In fact, the very next session will be on networking. So for that, just know that IP is a, let's say, address, just an address. On the timing, and for further doubts, we will have a session on networking. Don't worry.
Thank you, sir.
So, hello. Could you be more about ownership of directories or files? Then what does it actually mean when we change the ownership of a group for users?
Ownership means I just like told you about the permissions, right? Like there is a permission assigned to the owner, like the permission assigned to the group, and a permission assigned to the world, right? So like by ownership I mean like what does that particular file belong to. Like if that particular file belongs to a user, let's say Rohan. Let's say Rohan is a user and F1 belongs to Rohan. Okay, so for F1 the owner is Rohan, not root. Okay.
Okay.
And similarly, if a group ownership is changed, if F1 belongs to a group of users like root, Rohan, and let's say any other users, and we have another group of users, let's say ABC. Okay, so if you change the ownership, that particular the group ownership of that particular file to ABC, so the permissions assigned for root, Rohan, and C were transferred to the group of. Okay. This is kind of.
wait, actually, because people won't be able to ask questions. So what I'll do is, we'll just take 2 more questions, and after that we'll just adjourn the session. And if there are further doubts regarding IPs and stuff, be patient, because we'll be soon be having an entire session dedicated to IPs. That shouldn't be an issue right now.
Like your networking session will be taken by Harshit, and he is a lot more qualified than me to explain all this stuff. Okay, and he will be explaining to you in lot more simple way. So I will say, like, leave the networking questions to Harshit, and if you have any other more questions, like, ask.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Can you explain that? Can you explain that HTTP server and FTP server which you demonstrated in YouTube video?
Okay, so what is an HTTP server? An HTTP server is basically what happens is that an HTTP server will give us a web page which is not secure. Okay, so it can be any kind of web. Okay, so it can be a web page which displays the files in your system. It can be a web page which gives us any other service. It can be anything. So that particular web page is not secure. So for a secure version of a web page, we use the HTTP protocol. Okay.
Hello. Actually, I mean that the command which you showed in YouTube video, which you shared in Telegram group, in the last part you showed some HTTP server and FTP server command videos so that we can share files, something like that you said. So can you demonstrate that?
Okay. Let me know. I need to have that. Wait, just a second. Just wait a second. Okay. Yeah. So like Python 3 minus m http.sub. What does this command do? This command opens, basically serves a web page. And what is this web page? This web page will help us to see what kind of files we are using. Okay, and I cannot actually show you what this web page does, right? Because to show that, I will have to use a different device to connect to my web page. With the same device, I cannot like access the web page. For example, in the same network, let's say I am using the router A, for example, and under the same router A, I am also using my phone. So by using my phone, I can access this web page, which I have just started right. So to access this web page, we have to be in a same network, and we have to type in a search tab my private IP followed by the port. The port used for sharing this particular web server is 8000. So when you type the IP of my device is to 8000 in the search tab of any browsing engine, Firefox, Google, say, so you are able to see the web server hosted in my machine, and this web server will show us the files and directories in my particular system. Are you? Am I clear?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hello?
Okay, one more question. One more.
Hello?
Okay, yeah.
Sir, you have demonstrated about that ch group and ch own command. I have a doubt that if we change groupship and ownership to some other group member, and again if you want to go back to the previous groupship and ownership, is it suitable? Is it ch group used or any other command?
Yeah, you use the same command, which is ch own and ch own. Like you will have to use the passwords assigned to the particular users or group, right? Like if you are changing the ownership of a particular file, you need to have the password for that owner. Like if you let's say the ownership of the file f1, as I just said, was under Rohan. Okay, so if you are changing the ownership of that file, you need to know
ಏನಾಯ್ತು
the
ಟ್ಯಾಬ್ ಏನ್
password of the
ಟಿಕೆಟ್
user
ಇದೆಯಾ ಏನು ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ
and
ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನು
after you type in the password, you are able to change the ownership of that particular file. The same goes for group as like we use it. Okay.
Okay. That means if we want to,
ಆಮೇಲೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಿದೆ
if we go back to the previous user also, we can use the ch group and ch own command.
ಬರಂಗಿದ್ರೆ
Remembering those passwords.
Exactly.
ಇವಾಗ
Okay, thank you.
ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನೆಟ್ ಬೇಕು
Okay.
ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನೆಟ್ ಬೇಕು
So
ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನೀನು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬರಬೇಕು
that's the end of the session, guys. If there are any more doubts, please feel free to avail the Telegram group, or you can also refer to the sessions afterwards, which will be on networking and malware, and there will be a lot of exciting stuff coming up, right? So you just stick around and be patient if this particular session bored you or anything, but be sure that the next sessions will amaze you and will make you a lot more proficient in using the knowledge of networking and using the net. Okay. So that's it. We'll be wrapping up, guys, and we will need feedback. I hope that I made this session somewhat not boring and you enjoyed it. If you like the session, I would love to have your feedback.
ಬಿತ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಂಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ನಂಗೆ 9 o'clock